Okay, well, this is going to be my very first review of a product on this channel ever, so let's get right into it. This is a product I am excited about. Oh, it looks like it's double boxed from Amazon. Let me get this out of here. Quite well, actually. All right, first box is off. And as we can see, this is an X-Tronic 6020 Pro X hot air gun, input 110 volts. I only had a 220 volt one from another company, and I didn't feel like running that little motor on a transformer, so I felt I might as well just order a new one. It's time. So this looks pretty good. It says seal, if seal's broken, there's a seal all the way around it. What does it say here? It says X-Tronic 6020 Pro X patented nozzle holder. That's one of the reasons I got this, is I'll show you what's up with that and why I felt it was a good selling point. Oh, so this looks good. Let's see, questions or problems or complaints. All right, so they got a little manual here, and looks rather nice. It's a color manual. Even though most of it looks black and white, there's a little bit of yellow there, so a little more expensive in the making, right? Great, so there's that manual. And now with this unit from Amazon, they're also sending a little desoldering pump, manual spring-loaded action kind of deal. Looks like we've got a set of tweezers here for SMD work. Looks like we've got a little bit of desoldering wick, so that's good. Could never have enough of that. So that's good there. We'll set that aside. Now what do we got here? Made by 100% recycled, passed the drop test. Let's see. Oh, well packaged, so preformed. That'll be good for when I travel, which is often. So nozzle for SMD rework station, little box there. We'll get to that. Here's the unit itself. All right, so I'll set that aside. And looks like we've got the pen or the gun, if you will. All right, good enough. I don't think there's anything else I need there. Well packaged. That's first and foremost. Wonderful, double boxed from Amazon, so that's good. So let's take off this plastic here. Good for dust protection and transportation. There's something here. What is this? This is a little sticker, and it is in another language, so I really can't read it. Maybe you guys can. Although the bottom might be in English, but I don't have my glasses on, so I'll read that here shortly. So here's the unit itself. Slick looking, very clean. I don't see anything broken. Let's see what's in this guy. So here's the individual nozzles, and it looks like it comes with 6 different sizes. And these, from the picture online, are supposed to go largest to smallest here. So I think that's this, yeah, like so. All right, so that is what came in that box. And then the pen itself. Well packaged. Everything's real solid here. The pen itself looks like it has a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pin connector there. Nice piece of turning there. So, oops, this is pretty solid. Feels good to the hand. And this would go in here, like so. There is a keyway for that. Looks like it's up, and then this would screw on. Perfect. All right. So let me reposition the camera and we'll get this thing fired up. All right, here we go. So what I'm going to do is, I know all of our time is valuable, so I'm not going to make this a lengthy video, but we're going to go through the basic functions of this. We'll learn it together. I'll read the manual as we go quickly. Then I'm going to tear the thing apart, and I want to see what's on the inside. Now, one thing to take note of, it says that it is made in China. That's not necessarily a bad thing nowadays. This thing looks pretty quality to me so far. I mean, it's got a rock solid case on there. And all of these nozzles are pretty neat. So, for instance, these here are roughly the same diameter, but one of them, let me bring this in close, has a ferrule in it for circulating the air prior to it coming out. And it looks like a clockwise fashion there. One is just a straight through. So that can make a difference when you're doing specific work. And there's another one here, so these two are a little bit different. And then, again, one has the air induction circulation there, rifling, if you will, and then one has just a straight through. And then finally, the smallest one is also just a straight through. Anyway, so that's neat. Now, this has a system that they have patented, and that's a common problem for me in hot air guns, is that, you know, sometimes you got to wait for this tip to cool down to change the tip and, you know, put a little screw on, or sometimes there's not a screw, they just slide on, but, you know, you got to wait for the tip to cool down. In this case, you don't. So the main selling factor for me was you can go like this and pull it out, and that tip is on there. Now, it didn't take a lot of pressure to put that down, and it's not hot at the moment. I can't fully pull it out yet, but I can there. So however they're getting that to lock in there, it doesn't feel magnetized. No, it doesn't feel magnetized. It's a friction value of some sort. So must be just the proximity of the size. But so if you want to get it off, so let's say it's already on there, they have made this, and I'll try to zoom this in a little bit here. Let's go on this side. So what they've done is you press it on the tip, and if you want to take it off, you slide it to the right here, and then you just pull up. And like I could take the second one, see I'm working, and I'd say, oh, I got to change this other size here. I can just do that while the gun is still hot and keep moving on and change the tips. I mean, I think that's a excellent selling point. I don't have to physically touch anything on there. So let's see here. All right, well, it'll take some getting used to. I do find that I have to hold my hand on it to be able to do that. Let's see if I don't. All right, so that's down, and then up. Yeah, so up, you can't really, I mean, it'll do it, but I don't want to toss this thing over. So you got to kind of hold the top and then pull up. And that's okay, because it's going to take some strength to put this on and off. I don't want this thing falling off, these tips falling off while I'm working on a board and I'm down here. I don't want this tip falling off onto any of my projects that I'm working on or repairs for a customer. So that system's pretty cool. Check it out. I love that. So we'll see how that works in real time. So initially turning it on, what do we see? We don't see anything. Now, I did read in the manual that you can change this automatically by holding the up and down button to Celsius or Fahrenheit. There's Fahrenheit. There's Celsius. So that's cool. I'm an American, so I'm going to say Fahrenheit for now, although there are times I use Celsius. Now, I believe this comes with 3 presets. So it looks like we've got a 662 degrees Fahrenheit at 40, what they're calling 40 for the air pressure. And same thing, 4716 for channel 2 and channel 3, 788. But these are also programmable. So you can change them to whatever you want, and then that is a setting for that. So one neat thing about this that I, again, read and I'm becoming aware of is, much like my other one that was a different brand, this one, you pick it up and it starts. I think that's an awesome feature. Let's see how long it takes to get that up to temperature. Boom. I think that's what that was set for. That was pretty fast. Now we're gonna check that temperature in just a moment, and then if you put it down, it should climb. Yeah, there it is. It's climbing down now. Excellent. That is really excellent. I wonder if it sped up the fan to cool it down quicker. It may have. Let's try channel 2 and see what we get. 716 at 40. Pretty fast. Now if that's 716 at 40, again, we'll measure here in just a moment. That's pretty darn fast. Put it down. Yeah, so I think it turns off the element. Yep, it's turning off the element, and it's really racing the speed to cool that element down, racing the fan in there to blow more air across to cool it down. That is freaking pretty badass. I'm not sure how many units out there do that for this price range. Man, I love that. So let's try number 3 just for the heck of it. 788 at 40. You know, let's raise this up. Let's see how long it takes if we really got to blow something off the board here. Let's go to 75. So 788 degrees. Now that's supposed to be there. Again, we'll verify that. And I thought I turned it up to 75. Maybe that's not how this works. Maybe you have to turn it up while it's off. Yeah, you do. You got to turn it up while it's off. So let's get it up to 75. Oh, that's a good amount of air coming out of there. Let's go to 100. I want to see what that feels like. That's a lot of air. And I don't even have a tip on there, so that's great. That is really great. All right, so let's put it down, see what happens. Uh-oh, there goes my fire alarm. Well, I guess that's something to watch out for. If you have a fire alarm going, when this thing is brand new, it is going to emit some stuff from the factory. And that just set off my fire alarm. Gun or pencil, whatever you want to call this, heating element and air blower. And of course the unit is unplugged. It looks like we've got 4 screws on this side, 4 screws on this side, maybe 3 more to take off here. And this must hold the stuff on the inside. So let me start with that, and then I'll fast forward this as we go, but I'll let the camera. All right, here we go. So looking at this, first impressions, pretty darn good. I'm gonna actually take that off of there. Really good, actually. It's a lot of things I'm impressed about it. I don't know. Let's see if you can see. Let me try to get in here a little bit closer on some of this. But can you see the shrink wrapping down here? Everything that is connected to an outboard, something or other, connector, switch, or otherwise, including the small encoder right here, has shrink wrap to separate each of the lines coming in or out. That's pretty good. You don't see that too often nowadays. And even right back here to the switch, oh, sorry, to the fuse app, yep, to the fuse holder here. And that's pretty good. You know, looking at the circuit board itself here, pretty good attention to detail. I like how they have put tamper paint on all of the anything that moves. Essentially, all of these breakouts here have some sort of tamper paint on them. So if you take that off, they know. So that must be obviously for their warranty repairs, even right down to the paint here, right on the main transformer itself, the screws, and even the fuse holder here. You don't see that too often. That's a sign of quality, just to know if somebody else has been inside here, if they're trying to claim warranty. I'm not going to obviously claim warranty. I opened this thing up, not a problem. But this thing was $150 for that level. That's pretty good quality to see. Now the board itself, let's get into that. I'm going to shine a light on here. Of course, here you have your processor, and you have a diode array here to change her from AC to DC. A couple of filter caps there. There's a 5-volt. Let's see what that is actually. That is a TTP 122. That's a 5-volt regulator there. Optocoupler over here. A sound element here. Looks like underneath this wiring harness here, there is a variable resistor. That must be for setting some sort of calibration, perhaps. Looks wonderful. Solid circuit board. I don't really see any flux or anything left over from the factory. Maybe a little bit here, but not much. Looks like they cleaned it before they put her in. Overall, I mean, it's pretty solid of a unit. You know, what did I open this up for? I'm checking for obvious things like, you know, pieces of quality that you can tell how much somebody cares about their quality control. For instance, there's a zip tie on here, there's a zip tie on there. They didn't have to put that on there, but they did, and that is another sign of quality control. Looks like there's some little bit of black. Oh, I'm not sure what that is. That's not any sort of burning, but just something on the wire there, like magic marker. I'm not quite sure. At any rate, overall, I have to say that this thing is really, for 150 bucks, well built. Good job, guys. Not that you've taken this apart, but if you do, you'll notice that these two screws here that go in the bottom, right here and right here, they're a little bit longer than all the other screws for the case. Not sure why, but at any rate, something else to note is this main outside shield is just held together with 3 sheet metal screws here for this tip holder, and then for the gun holder, 2 screws here. And it's just a very well thick metal gauged bent over piece of sheet metal, obviously, and it just slides on the unit like so, and it goes back on. Of course, you put the screws in. And these screws for the side are not sheet metal screws. They're actually machine screws, fine thread machine screws. And when they're going into the unit themselves, that's another sign of quality, because the finer the thread, the more tension you're going to be able to put on that without actually pulling through. So another good sign of quality. So interestingly enough, I talked about that quality level of the screws, and I guess I am a little bit wrong, because the top here, this screw, it just spins around, and it was loose when I started to take this apart. This one here, same thing, and I didn't put any pressure on these. And this one here, you can hear it clicking. So there's not enough girth on the other sheet metal here to really grab those screws. Now those 3 are the ones that are loose. This one here tightens up pretty good. Let me get a torque wrench on this. All right, so the lowest torque wrench that I have goes to 5 psi. So if I go to one of these screws here, if it clicks, yeah, so that one's good, 5 psi. That one just stripped right through. You know, these are probably, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 maybe, but that is a little bit concerning. These 2 screws, I mean, you can see how loose that is. So that part of their design, they're going to have to do something about that. I mean, I can even I mean, you can see how loose that screw is there. Not detracting from the overall quality. The overall, I mean, that case is still on there solid. I just, you know, 3 of the 8 screws just turn, and there's obviously no knurling on the inside of this metal. In fact, you know, the hell with it. Let me take it back off and see what we're looking at. All right, well, we're back in this unit, and let's take a look. So yeah, you can see here that the thickness of the metal for the casing, it's not very conducive. There's just a hair, a little bit of a punched in metal, and it must be that when they put the screws in there, that those, and yeah, it's the same for all of them. You can see here, in fact, this one's punched in enough where it has a little bit of something catching on there. At any rate, So yeah, that's their process. They punch that in, and I'm not sure if they actually tap that or not. But let's see, one of these screws that was loose, let's look at this guy here. As the screw is going in here, yeah, that just goes right through. I mean, you know, it's not anything that I did. I suppose the argument could be made, perhaps. But, you know, I would say that I didn't do that to 3. You know, this one's loose as well. This is the one that was popping. But yeah, you can see it. I mean, it just basically slid in there. So, and I can actually pull that right out, almost, at any rate. Yeah, so if there's going to be one thing that is a little bit wonky, it's going to be this chassis portion. But again, not everybody's going to be taking these apart, so maybe disregard all of this. But again, I'm looking for overall quality in the unit, and I have great things to say about it. Just that portion doesn't seem to be very solid. I would have liked to have seen either a longer shaft of bent metal on here, or a welded on nut, which is frequent. And that's something that I could do myself, actually. I could just epoxy 8 nuts on the back of there if it's really that big a concern, but it's not. This thing doesn't really vibrate on the bench, or, you know, there's not a big motor moving on the inside, just in the pen. So I'll get off my horse here and, you know, put it back together and call it a day for this portion. So it looks like it's going to be these 2 screws at the end. Looks like this just slides off. And then this looks like that's threaded. Yep, sure enough. And maybe threaded more. Yeah, okay, so fully threaded more. There we go. And we'll get these kind of out of the way. All right, so what do we got? Looks like we have the fan here. All right, and we're gonna go on in here. This is a DC brushless, again made in China, 24 volt DC. Of course, that's the supply. That's coming from the unit. And there's a small circuit board on here. This must contain the heating element, or not the heating element, but the so I'm not sure. At any rate, never taken one of these apart before, so you're doing this with me for the first time as well. Look at that. Now that feels solid in quality. Let me back this out here. So this is the element. Pretty neat how it's all put through there like that. Locked in here pretty clean. And then again, that wire is soldered on there. There's a protection sleeve inside of here of some sort as well. And that looks like it's a rolled up barrier of some sort. I don't want to take that apart too far. But then the rest is pretty quality on the inside. Solid. 150 bucks, man. The day and age we live in is pretty amazing to be able to get these sorts of things for that low amount of money. Yeah, so if you ever had to take one of these apart, that boot sits on there like that, and then there's these 2 slots that boot sits in. Then there's a hole here on this side. You can see the guide pin for both of these to sit. And that's how this one goes together. So I'd imagine you got to kind of, feel where those are at. And then this guy goes back on here. Waiting for that telltale pop. There it is. So it comes apart pretty easy. And then these 2 screws. So really good to go. All right, so this is just going to be a subjective test. There's not really a way for me to get fully accurate here. Right now it's about 70 degrees in the house, so you can see that's pretty close. Fahrenheit. I'm gonna just set this 500. This is a contact style temperature connection, so I'm gonna just try to get it up there a little bit and just see how close we are. 460, taking a while. I got that 70% air. It's looking pretty close. I mean, it's climbing. 501. I've seen 501. Now, of course, I'm moving my hands around and talking, so I'm sure that I am messing with the... Again, it's subjective, right? So this is not an accurate way to do this, but just to show that it's roughly in the ballpark. I guess it has to be in here to... Yeah. Yeah, that's right in there. I love that. All right, great. So this manual does state a lot of the things that I did on first impression, and actually breaks it down in a really good fashion. I don't believe anywhere in here, and of course they say soldering will produce smoke, ensure the area is well ventilated. Obviously I didn't do that because my fire alarm went off, and the safety precautions here, but it does go through the initial setup process here, Fahrenheit, Celsius, and then it does talk about the 3 different nozzles. So there's 5 different nozzles rather. 3 straight air nozzles used for components that need to be quickly disassembled, 5, 7, and 10 millimeter. And then 2 spiral cyclone air nozzles used to disassemble fragile equipment, 8 and 10 millimeters. So I guess these spirals that are in here are actually to limit the amount of airflow versus one that's going straight through. So that's pretty interesting. At any rate, this is a, I was concerned with this system coming on and off and how these tips would hold, but they seem to be holding just fine. So let's put this to the real test, and let's take something off a board. So this is a switch mode power supply that I'm working on for line 6 amplifier, and this R16 and this R14 have both gone bad, and they are the resistors that are responsible for going to the gate of these FETs. So I've already replaced this one, but as you can see, it's a 1206 part. It needs to be an 0805. So I took the other one off with soldering iron. So let's see the right way to take this off. So I've got this at 500 degrees right now, 70% air. In fact, what I'll do is I'm going to turn that down to say 60% air. It's off screen right now, so you can't see it. And I've got the smallest nozzle on there. She's holding fine. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this on there like that. Give it a chance to get warm. Yeah, I don't have her turned up high enough, so I'm going to go up with the temperature. So that was 500 degrees. Let's go up to let's say 625. So we're at 625 now, and it's oscillating, getting up there, climbing in temperature. I don't feel any leaks around anywhere else. Looks really good. Solid coming out of there. Still 60% air. Let's go back at it. It's going to take a minute for me to figure out this particular air gun. Each one of these are a little bit different, right? So there it is. Just that easy. So 625 looks like it's good for that one. Now I know that I also have to replace the one that's next to it, this R14. Let's go ahead and take that out too. There it is, just that easy. All right, well, how can we wrap this up? Let's wrap it up with doing a preset change. So you see in the last shot I had that temperature up to 625 to remove those small SMD parts. That's a little too hot, but I was being a little bit impatient. I wanted to get them off there. It's probably at 575 I probably could have got away with the same action and just had a few more seconds to allow the heat to get in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see what the factory settings are here. So now that might go back to 625 where I had it. It does. So if I hit this, channel 1, 662, channel 2, 716, channel 3, 788. So I'm going to go back to this channel 1, and I'm going to bring it down to say 610. Let me try that. And if I want to make my one, as they're calling channel 1 here, 610, press and hold this for 5 seconds. Even though we heard the beep there. So that should be how it's set. And if you want to change them, you have to do it when the irons or when the gun is in your hand. So 716, it'll start to change there, so forth and so on. It'll regulate that temperature. So if you set it down, obviously it goes into cool down or standby mode. You can see it races the fan up to be able to blow off through that heating element at maximum pressure. It's a powerful little fan. And I believe, yeah, right around 200 or so is the cutoff temperature for that. I love that I can change these and keep the gun hot without having to wait for it to cool down to change a tip or get burned while trying to change a tip. This is a, totally hands-free experience when it comes to the tip, so that's wonderful. Inside, like I said, the circuit board is great, the transformer seems solid, everything is really good. Of course, these screws that aren't fully tightening, yeah, that's another issue. Maybe the company will watch this and they'll work on that. That's an easy fix for them to, just have welded on little back nuts for those. But then again, on the second hand, not who's going to be taking it apart, so other people can make an informed choice. Now, this is $150 on Amazon as of April 2020. Is it worth it? Every cent, I think, in my opinion. Can you buy them for cheaper? Absolutely. Does X-Tronic themselves sell cheaper ones? Sure they do. But I wanted the features that this has. I wanted the features of the 3 programmable channels. I wanted the feature of the touchless or hands-free tip changing. That was the thing that I thought was the greatest about it. And I think that it's a bonus that it has a feature that goes into standby and makes the temperature come down a lot faster than it normally would in the way that it does. I haven't seen that before. That may be a standard thing on these, I don't know. But the one that I had prior to this that I'll leave brand nameless was around the same price, didn't have that feature, and also didn't have programmable settings. So is this thing awesome for $150? I think it is, in my opinion.